Okay, I thought I'd film this, well, in case anybody else gets the problem, really. This new growth has rotted, and it's soft rot, yeah? So it's probably a bacterial infection. Or something along those lines, but whatever it is, it's coming off. Whenever you get an obvious infection on an orchid, whatever you use to deal it with needs to be sterile, or all you'll do is spread it. So I'm just going over my knife with some alcohol. Make sure it's poor, that stinks. That's all over my hands as well. It smells like hospitals. Yeah, clean. That's what it needs to be. Right, the whole growth's coming off. Any roots associated with it don't matter because the growth's coming off, so I'm not going to try and leave any roots. I'm trying to just get a clean cut. I don't know how far down to go. About that, I think. Is that off? It's actually got some roots. I'm not quite through yet, so go again. That sounded like it got it. The base isn't too bad. I will try and get a bit of cinnamon down there. Just clear these roots out of my way so I can get my finger in there. But that looks like the rot set in from the leaves downwards. I mean, you can see it's, let's take it apart, you can see what I'm getting at there, yeah, that's soggy, moist, bacterial rot. Fungal infection possibility, but I would say that's a bacterial rot. Some nasty has got in there, and they tend to do rather well in the lower temperatures where the humidity's high. So I'll just wash my hands as soon as I've touched it. I'll say if you get any form of bacterial infection, you need to keep yourself away from the rest of the plant if you've touched the nasty bit. So all I need to touch now is just a little bit of cinnamon on the base of that cut to make sure it dries off. It looks quite dry, it doesn't look bad, and the growth that it was attached to looks good. So at the moment I'm not particularly worried. It'd be nice to know how and why it happened, but anyway, that should just dry off that area quickly. So if there is anything lurking there, this should in theory take it down. So that's all I'm going to do, and I'll keep that plant, the actual pot, and everything to do with that plant dry for a while. Yeah, give it a chance for the cinnamon to seal that right over, and that's one of the pots I probably wouldn't have watered anyway because it's still damp. Yep, so that's it. Bacterial rot, cut it out as fast as you can. Now that could have been sat there a while because that pot hasn't been looked at for 9 days. Yeah, and it's still slightly damp. You see what I mean? In the winter time, you just don't use it up. So I may well have missed that one off and left it yet again. But it's going to get left now to dry off, and then hopefully, as this is a reasonable bulb with leaves on, it'll trigger that it's lost its attached new growth that's failed miserably, and hopefully push out another one soon. You know, that one was over that side of the bulb. I suspect the next one will come out this side, but that's a wait and see. But I'm happy that whatever it was is now gone. These sheaths at the base of this bulb are fine, so it hasn't spread into there and got at the base of the next bulb. That all looks dry in there. So I'm happy with that. That'll do, and then we'll see how it goes. The other thing I wanted to do while I'm out here, I can't believe I'm repotting at this time of year, but this is a little bit of an emergency on the grounds that there's not a lot holding these two plants in one pot. There's not a lot holding them in there. So whatever roots they've got are near the surface, I suspect. This is a Hamiltonaria. There we go. and it's a case of I suspect there is very little in the pot, but we'll get it out and have a look. Oh, I do not like this stuff. If you get used to it, oh look, inherent problem. Not only is it in something that holds moisture, it's also got a sphagnum moss plug in the centre. Let's just separate the two plants out. So I don't think the plants are too far gone. We have got some roots that are savable. See where those ones that were in that solid sphagnum plug have gone. They're useless. Yeah, so they've died. But the ones that are coming out from elsewhere are not too bad. Seen a lot worse and saved a lot worse. So apart from the time of year, which I can do without, there's actually a new growth pushing up in there. Yeah, that will force it. Actually, I might even help that new growth by. So if you take the sheath off down near the base, then as soon as the roots come out, they go straight into something. So I think I may take that sheath right down to the base and expose that new growth. And then whatever roots come out of there should go straight into the media and not climb up the sheath and point skywards, which doesn't do the plant a lot of good. When you've got a poor root system, every root that gets into the media is precious. Okay, that's savable, that's not too bad. These roots are a bit dry. That's my fault because this stuff worries me to death. It can get too soggy. So that has been kept a little dry. Better that than rotted roots this time of year. So I need to sterilise my scissors and do some trimming. I didn't know what I was going to find in here. I didn't know whether I wanted my scissors, but I'll give that a good wash off and trim these dead roots off. That'll have to be staked. That's one. And this is the one that this has got the plug on it. I suspect there's hardly any live roots in this area. It's funny how the nurseries grow in this stuff. Maybe they just haven't got them long enough to get the problem, if you know what I mean. The problem is when all this solid compacted sphagnum starts to break down and it turns acidic and takes the roots out. Well, if they don't keep them in the nursery long enough for that to happen, they get away with it, don't they? We bring them home and rot the roots off. Especially if we're reluctant to repot. Now we've got some viable roots, not too bad. No signs of new growths on this piece. I will put both pieces in the same pot to get them going. And then at a later date they may get separated. I'm going to take that sheath off because there are roots coming out near the base. Yeah, now they can go downwards instead of climbing up the sheath. It's the only reason I do it. That'll do, nothing else. Yep, that'll do. Give that a rinse off. There are a few, not many, just a few roots in the middle that I'll trim on that piece. That piece is better than I expected, seeing as that was the one with the plug. Okay, clean up and then we'll get it in a pot. Them in a pot, sorry. Okay, let's get these two jammed in the smallest pot I can get them in. Good reason for that. Away with the lolly stick, as much as I like lolly sticks. But if I don't do that, I know somebody will get cross with me. So nice shiny new label. It's also clean, obviously, nothing lurking on it. I don't normally show trimming roots because it should be pretty obvious, but I haven't done a repot for a long time, so I thought I'd just go over the logic. The logic is the root dead? And if it is dead right back to the base, then that's where it comes off, right back to the base. That root's died back, but it's branched. That proves to me the root system is capable of branching. That can be important, you know, because if the root's died back halfway, we'll trim it into live tissue and it'll branch. So you haven't lost the whole root. We have, however, lost that one. Come off. If you leave dead roots on, all they will do is rot in the pot, and they could set off some secondary rotting into the good roots. I haven't personally known that happen, but I know others that say it will. So de-risk it. You know, the object of repotting is to regenerate a root system straight into some decent media. So that's a classic example. That root has died back to there. Well, let's leave that bit on then and give it a chance to branch. Dead root tip. Dead root tip on a branch. That's unusual. That's probably about it. I don't want to take any more. See that one there that's got a little branch halfway up? I presume you can see all this. Otherwise I'm talking to myself. That's actually going to do. That'll do. What's left is okay. It'll do. Get that out the way and have a look at this one. Now this is the one where all of this lot has gone. There is no point in keeping any of that. Oh, I've just snipped a rhizome. Better have a quick look at that then. Yeah, that's good. Any chance I get to inspect a rhizome for pretty colours, having been caught with it, I always take that opportunity. And there's me saying there's no sign of new life. Well, yes there is. You never know till you get those bottom bract type leaves off. A couple of dead roots there, obviously. Most of what I'm cutting off is on the oldest pseudo bulb, so it doesn't matter. That pseudo bulb isn't going to grow. All it's going to do is support the rest. But that new growth is coming out of the oldest bulb, not the latest one. So this piece has two new growths. Bonus. You're soggy, you can come off. It's pretty easy to tell once you try. Just press gently. If it feels soggy, then it's probably not going to grow. That's not bad. I'll leave the rest. Nothing major on that one. So that's my two pieces. Put my rubbish over to one side. Scissors back in the alcohol. I don't think I'm going to need them again. That's two quite nicely cleaned up plants. Yeah. If there's going to be any new growth on this one, it's probably going to come up from in there. There's no sign of it yet. Nonetheless, now, decision, do I take that bulb off and allow that plant to go down further in the pot? How many roots are on it? None. Off you come. That's an old bulb from when the plant, I don't even need to cut it off, it was already on its way. But yeah, you sort of got to bear in mind that if a plant's grown from seed, the first 3 or 4 pseudo bulbs that it puts up are nowhere near the size they should be. They're seedling pseudo bulbs and they help support the growth at that stage of the plant's life. But once it gets some decent sized ones, some adult ones, they're not really required. Right, that's my pieces. Let's get some stuff mixed up. For this one, this is a mixture. Yes, I want it to dry out, but no, I don't want it to dry out exceptionally fast like I would say a Cattleya. It's a bit of a mix. With a name like Hamilton Ara, doesn't give you a flipping clue what's in it, but I'm pretty sure I've already looked this up, and it's an intergeneric based around Oncidium, probably Miltonia, may have a bit of Odontoglossum in there, but all of those types don't like to dry really fast. They would prefer to stay moist a while. So some moss, something that likes to stay wet for a long time and not dry out, gets a lot of moss. This is just getting some, especially as I'm trying to regenerate a root system. Now, not everybody breaks their moss up. I do. I sort of think the smaller the bits of the moss, the more corners of the medium it gets into and doesn't all end up in one place. So that will do. Excuse me. Now the fact that this is a very small pot, I'm not actually going to put some chunky bark in the bottom this time. It's an air cone pot, And these roots, fingers crossed, are going to fill this pot pretty quick. So all I need to do is think about where. That's the older bulb, that's the latest growth, that's where the new growths should come out of. Now I've already checked, these roots are bendy. They were brittle, but since I've rinsed the plant off, they've now gone soft, which are good. So I want that new growth. I'll put the oldest growth up against the back of the pot. The new growth has then got some room. Now this one's already showing me where the new growths are, so again I want them to have a bit of room. This really is a cramming it in, and I'm doing it deliberately. I've been caught too many times with Oncidium types and intergenerics where you sort of think, oh, excuse me, I'll give it room to grow. So you end up putting it in a pot that's far too big and it ends up staying wet too long. Roots aren't happy. So I tend to cram them in there now. I'll only move it to a larger pot when this one's full. Otherwise it can stay in there. And I just find that they do better under those circumstances. So what I'm doing is I'm putting some media in and then lifting the plant. What I don't want to do is press the media down hard and break those roots. So I'm getting some in and then lifting the plant gently to bring it up nearer the top. And the media can then fall into the gaps. Note the expression fall into the gaps, not get forced in there with my fist. I'm not a hard potter, I pot loosely. And it's a gentle pressing down process. Until I'm somewhere near firm. And then the top layer is nothing more than to bring some media just round the base, not halfway up the pseudo bulb. You don't need that. That's not how orchids grow. If you watch how they grow, being epiphytes, they grow away from what they're growing in. Yeah? So they end up with just the base in whatever they're growing. Moss, fern roots, stuff like that. You very rarely see a wild epiphyte with its pseudobulbs buried. They sit on whatever they're growing in. That's how they like to be. Right, am I going to have to stake it? Most certainly am. This is a problem when you get a small pot like this. It's quite difficult to stake a plant because the stake wobbles. I got a feeling if I just secure that large pseudo bulb, it should do the job. You're going to stay still. Yes, you are. Good. And if that one is secure, the other part of the plant, you might be able to tie that one on. Anyway, one at a time. Get one secure, and then that one will stop wobbling. And then I can deal with the other one. Now, I'm not garrotting anything, I'm just going to take the tie round near the top of the pseudo bulb. Not right at the top, because that's where the base of the leaves are. So the tie is secure on the stake, that's not going to slide. Not with my knot, it's not anyway. And then I just want to secure that pseudo bulb a little bit down from the base of the leaves. And if you can imagine what I mean by semi-tight, it's got to hold the plant still. And that bulb's not going to grow, so it's not going to swell up and garrot itself. So that'll do. Firm is all that's needed. Now, how do I get at the other bit? With difficulty. Great difficulty. Do you know what? I've got a feeling if I get that bent leaf out of the way, I can secure the other bit of the plant against the same stake. Woohoo! With a bit of fiddling and Possibly a bit of swearing, but we'll try and do without that. So, way past my lunchtime. Right, now, what are we doing here? We need to go round there with that one. Come on, mess me about. And back through there with that one. That's one. And if we take the other one the same way but the opposite, if you know what I mean, and I've got something to pull. Go round the tie of the previous pseudo bulb. Yay, gotcha! Excellent. Love it when a plan comes together. There's a lot of raffia, but it's not going to be there forever. It is all in one place after all. There we go, job done. Now those roots were very hydrated by washing the plant off, and that has got wet moss in there, so I probably won't water that now for quite a few days. I'll just wait till I see that moss starting to dry. That'll give any bruising or anything on those roots just chance to heal over. So there we go. And just for Rose, even though I don't think she's watching yet, she'll be back. We'll pop that in there. Nice shiny new thing. So there we go. I don't expect to be repotting this time of year under normal circumstances, but that was a bit of an emergency because it was wobbling. And now it's not. So now the roots can do their thing and branch out and fill that pot up. And I have got some around the edge of the pot, which is good. I can keep my eye on them and see what they're up to. Most of them will end up in the middle. So there we go, just to add on those clips and things like that. And so I'll bring this video to a close now. And see you next time.